little jars that you have staple itself saying how often you use them.
How many times? Well, I mean, the jar itself you can use a million times. The lids, you just have to keep an eye on them because, you know, like I said, this one, it's, you know, oven to begin with, so maybe not examples. I don't know, it had like pickles or got scraped and then it's rusty. But yeah, I know you just kind of eyeball them. See, and these are common with, you know, and things like that. And they're kind of a nice size too for a lot of salsas and things like that. I think that the company should all have to have like basic sizes. There shouldn't be a million sizes. You know? They should be more standard, and then they could be recycled and used a lot better. But so cherries. Like I said, it starts the season off, so this is pretty quick and easy. And then apricots, well, usually you want to pick them because you can get more in the jar, right? So that's a little bit more time consuming, but otherwise, same thing. Did you put?
Sorry, yeah. Just with reusing the commercial jars, have you found that they hold up pretty well? Because I just read that they can break.
These?
Like kind of more like the mayonnaise that looks like.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Well, I think they might break easier. They're not as sturdy, but I don't know.
You got to
use
eat
them
them
a
up.
lot. When you're short of jars, you use any jar you can find, and really, you know, yeah.
You got to heat them up first before you put them
Yeah,
in the water.
any time that before you're putting them into the boiling water, that's like, you know, you can heat your, say you're canning tomatoes, you can heat your tomatoes in a pot and then ladle them in, and then it's up to warm, right? But you wouldn't want to put cold tomatoes in something like this and plunge it in hot water. This is where you're going to have trouble.
Fine, the easiest way to heat those is put about maybe a quart full of water
Yeah.
in the microwave. Heat them up. And
Yeah, well, that'd be another way too, and in
Yeah.
your oven, and I mean, small jars, if I'm just doing a little jam, I'll just put a saucepan of water and put the whole jar in the water and then just take it out with the tongs.
Sterilizing jars. Is the oven method as good as?
I think so. I don't think that, I mean, it's just a matter of getting it to a certain temperature. But if you're, for instance, if you're doing canning, I've always thought, like, why would you sterilize the jar? Because the fruit that you're putting in there is not sterile, so you've kind of undone it all. The whole point of putting it in the boiling water bath for 20 minutes is it's at that temperature for 20 minutes, so it's being sterilized. So it seems to me a little pointless to be spending all that time sterilizing something when you're putting something in it that isn't sterile.
Well, you know, days gone by, I mean, you look back at, you know, mother, they didn't have dishwashers or anything.
No.
And so everything was hand washed, everything was clean.
Mm-hmm.
But then it gets, I know when my mom taught me how to can, it was always, you know, you make sure that it stays in that pot, depending on what you're canning, for the appropriate length of time, so that it's not going to get mold or bacteria. That's really what.
Yeah, you know, I mean, a lot of it's common sense, but I've just never seen that one about having sterile jars and then putting fruit that's just washed by hand into it. Like, and because it's going in there, it's not a problem. Like when I get the jam, it's a little bit different too. So apricots, same thing. Again, just putting up the jars, a bit of honey. But I mean, if you want to make a syrup, sugar syrup, that would be fine too. But I just can't give you too much advice about that because I haven't done it for years.
So the sugar has absolutely no role in desserts.
Well, I think like a high sugar content, like a salt content helps. It's another preservative. So it's not, but we don't want to add that much sugar to our diets. And it's, as I said, honey is local and it's so much easier to do it that way. Peaches, of course, get a little more complicated, but you know, you can quickly dip them into boiling water, which makes it a lot easier to slip the skins off and then you slice them, or if they're freestone ones, in halves. And I just use lemon juice to prevent the starvation in water. If I'm, you know, I usually try to do enough in a bowl to do my 7 jars and then put them all in at once.
Do you prefer to hot pack or cold pack your peaches?
Well, because I'm doing it the way I'm doing it, like, you know, I'm putting them in there and I'm covering them with boiling water again, so it's
You don't process it in a can afterwards?
Yeah, oh, no, canning, I mean, any fruit has to be processed. Yeah. It's just the pickles don't because of the acid, the salt, any fruit has to be, any canning has to be done in boiling water bath. And I mean, like, I know there's other ways of doing it. Like, some people actually do it in the oven too, but I've never done that, so I can't speak to that. Pears, again, a little more tedious if you're going to peel them, although some people don't, you know, if they're organic pears, you don't have to. That's same with peaches. At the farm, because lots of times they have a lot of young peaches that are organic. They're okay with that, so it doesn't hurt you. Tomatoes, of course, I never, like, sometimes, I think the old books used to say put the tomatoes in and pour boiling water over them. Well, I always shove so many tomatoes in there's no boiling water. Usually when you're canning tomatoes, you're going to put them in soup or something anyway, right? So, and then a teaspoon of salt is put the tomatoes. And you can add cider vinegar a little bit if they're low acid, because that's the thing nowadays. Like, I think all tomatoes used to be higher acid, and now today some of them are not. So you have to kind of watch that a little bit, but you can just add a little bit of vinegar to your instead of what you have. And then same thing. If you've heated them, then you just put them in lids, put them in boiling water for that to process them. If you're doing them from cold tomatoes, the other option is to put cooler water in your can with your whatever's going in cold and pour the whole thing to the water. But if you're doing several loads at a time, that doesn't usually work because while you're doing one, you get the next load and you get a lot of spots. But that's the time, if I was going to do that, that's the time when I might be sure to use specifically like a canning jar with stronger too. If I was putting something in that wasn't necessarily right up to boiling temperature into hot water, then I would make sure I used water. So then jamming. Jars, I would use these kind of jars as much as I could, but if you've got tons of these, there's no problem. Washed fruit, of course, usually you're mashing it up and putting it in, and I always recommend using a big pot. People tend to start with pots, not big, because when you've added the sugar to that, which I usually do with the jam, I usually use sugar. It's going to be in a rolling boil, and in the meantime, I've got my jars in boiling water or in the oven. So they're good and hot, and I've got my bits in the boiling water. So once your jam has boiled vigorously for a little while, and again, I don't use like all these different thicker cereal and stuff. I try to just use fruit and jam. Although you can get them nowadays that enable you to use way less sugar and it's still thicker. But I don't worry about it a lot. When the kids were smaller, I used to think, oh, if it's a bit runny, that's good because they don't use as much. It's really thick. They slather it on. It's kind of runny. They can't do that. So anyway, and if it really doesn't jam, it's not a waste. You're like, oh, it didn't jam. Well, then it's like jelly or syrup, and you put it in pancakes. So there, you don't want to be too worried. Yeah.
So you don't add any sugar when you're canning your jam whatsoever?
No, I usually put some in because depending, I mean, it is jam after all. It's something sweet that you're going to put.
Is there a specific kind of sugar that you need? Like, can you use raw sugar or?
Well, I try to use everything organic all the time, so I just use organic.
Could you use like agave or?
I imagine you could, I don't know about that. I haven't. I'm just. Yeah.
And no sugar, you can use 0 to 3 cups of sugar.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, the other thing is nowadays, if you don't know, you just Google and there'll be the answer somewhere on the internet.
A lot of times they use I've heard my girlfriend's mother one year, she used green apples because they have a lot of pectin in it, and that helps to gel your jam because it's so much.
Yeah, you can. I've done that too. You can chop up.
Works very well.